لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر كبيرا والحمد لله كثيرا وسبحان الله بكرة وعسيلا
إبراهيم
لا إله إلا الله ولا نعبد
إبراهيم
إلا إياه مخلصين له الدين ولو كره الكافرون اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحاب سيدنا
you see the view? I can get, I'm getting all the people. Want it closer?
When he talks, I don't have a
وعلى أزواج
Also go up close.
Yeah, go zoom up in where he's
وعلى ذرية
Yasser's going to do the
سيدنا
prayer.
محمد
Who's doing time?
وسلم تسليما
CD Yasser?
Yeah, Aida's doing
الله أكبر الله
top.
أكبر الله أكبر
And they
لا
lagging on the chicken.
إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر كبيرا والحمد لله كثيرا وسبحان الله بكرة وعسيلا لا إله إلا الله وحده صدق وعده ونصر عبده وعز جنده وهو العزم الأصحاب وعده لا إله إلا الله ولا نعبد إلا إياه مخلصين له الدين ولو كره الكافرون اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحاب سيدنا محمد وعلى أنصار سيدنا محمد وعلى أزواج سيدنا محمد وعلى ذرية سيدنا محمد وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. عيد مبارك. إن شاء الله we're going to do Salatul Eid. And I'm giving this to our brother. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, in the first rak'ah, we're going to do 7 takbirs. 1 takbir ihram and 6 more to follow. Second rak'ah will be 5. Inshallah. Give it out. We'll do 7 takbirs in the first rak'ah. First one is takbir ihram and 6 more will follow. Then after that, in the second rak'ah, we'll do the same. 5 takbirs. Inshallah. Tighten up the ranks. Make the row straight.
You gotta bring it up a little bit. Curving out like this. So you got to come up with that. You guys gotta.
Straighten it out. Clear the line, please. Clear the line.
Make sure your shoulders are touching. Don't spread your feet out. Keep your feet close to yourself. Touch shoulders. That way the lines won't be gapped up and people will be spread all over the place. Inshallah.
From the middle, from Brother Ismail.
Where you guys? We have to over here.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فاجعله غثاء أهوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلى ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى وليسرك ليسرى فالذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلي نار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى أو تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة هو خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي صحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى الله أكبر سمع له لمن حمده الله أكبر 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 الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس الله أكبر سمع له لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم. وعليكم السلام. I hope y'all forgive me. This was a bit unexpected.
Assalamualaikum.
إن الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم أما بعد. All praise is due to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that He is without partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad is His servant and messenger. Peace and blessings be upon him. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتون إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and die not except in a state of Islam with complete submission to Allah. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تسألون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. O mankind, be dutiful to your Lord who created you from a single essence, and from Him created His mate, and from them both spread many men and women. Fear Allah whom you demand your mutual rights, and do not cut the relations of the womb. Surely Allah is ever and a watcher over you. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. O you who believe, keep your duty to Allah and fear Him, and speak always the truth. Sadaqallahu Azim. Surely Allah speak the truth. So I want to begin by addressing the elephant in the park, which is right back there. No, I'm just kidding. It's an expression, elephant in the room, but we're not in the room, we're in a park. And the elephant in the park is that I'm standing here. This young Muslim who looks like he's probably barely out of his teenage years, and I'm giving a khutbah in front of dozens of elders and sheikhs and imams and learned people who know far more than I do. And so I want to acknowledge that and to say, because of that, I feel shy to stand before you, and most importantly, shy to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because I know how little it is that I know. And when you really know how little you know, you're very hesitant to speak and much more quick to listen. So you might be wondering, well, why are you up here then? I'm up here because the person who asked me, I have such high regard, esteem, respect, and love for this man and the community which he leads. When I moved here to the Bay Area 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, I didn't have a community, and this community welcomed me in, and this imam, he nurtured me in my Islam, and it was at that community that he led that I met my wife. And because of this community and because of this imam, me and my wife were able to go on the Hajj, alhamdulillah, right after we were married, and they have been supportive of my family. And that imam is Imam Abu Qadir Alameen, and that community, San Francisco Muslim Community Center. And so I'm incredibly grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him and for that community. I want to take the opportunity right now to say that, Ramadan is over. It doesn't mean that we go back to being miserly. So we should keep up our charity, and one way we can keep up the charity is to support the San Francisco Muslim Community Center and all the amazing work they are doing and have been doing. And there is a Launch Good page where you can donate so that, inshallah, Allah, the San Francisco Muslim Community Center can purchase that building, continue doing the work of serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have made it to the end of Ramadan. We are now in the Eid. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, the month of Ramadan, in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for mankind and clear proofs of the guidance and the criteria of right and wrong. And whosoever of you is present let him fast a month, and whosoever you is sick or on a journey, let him fast the same number of other days. Allah desires for you ease. He desires not hardship for you, and He desires that you complete the period, and that you should magnify Allah for having guided you, and that perchance you may be thankful. That's Surah 2 Al-Baqarah, Ayah 185. And we are indeed grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He has blessed us to complete the period of Ramadan, and we magnify Him, and we are thankful for His guidance. Alhamdulillah. Especially considering that we are here, and there are those who were with us last Eid that are not here this Eid. They have returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ennoble their face, and may Allah forgive them their sins and grant them a high station in paradise. Ameen. So we are grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to see another Eid, and we don't know if this will be the last for us. It could be. Only Allah knows. So we are grateful for that reason as well. So Ramadan is called the month of the Quran, and one of the names of the Quran, there's many names for the Quran, one of the names is the reminder. So I have an iPhone, which is the phone of my generation, I think, and I have an app. I have many apps, but there's one app in there called Reminders, and some of you may know it's a glorified task list, but alhamdulillah, it's a really useful task list, and what's cool about it is that you can actually create multiple lists in the Reminders app that are color coordinated. And I geek out about stuff like that. And then you can share those lists with other people who have iPhone. But, you know, when we make lists, it's very easy to put the list away and never look at it or think about it again. But what this app does is allows you to create notifications for the items in your list so that you will remember to do them. And there are two ways that you can set notifications. One is you can select a day and time to be notified of that thing. And then the second is you can select the address where you want to be notified. So when you are in a certain mile radius of a place, it will send a notification and then let you know it's time to do that thing. And subhanAllah, I mean, I was amazed. You might not be amazed at that, but when I learned that, I was amazed about technology, alhamdulillah, to help us remember things. And I remember when I was, I think when most of us were kids, we didn't have smartphones, and to help us remember things. And I remember something my mom used to tell me. She said, "Boy, if your head wasn't attached to you would lose your head if it wasn't attached to your shoulder." And I think that's something that Southern mothers say. But she was right. I lose things all the time. But the purpose of these anecdotes is to illustrate something that is very human about us, right? A characteristic that is a defining characteristic of being human, and is that we are forgetful. We forget. And this is the way Allah in His wisdom made us. But in Allah in His mercy has sent down the reminder. He sent down the reminder to help us remember. And He sent the prophets and messengers with the reminder to help us remember. Alhamdulillah. So we are a forgetful species because of the way Allah made us. But there's another characteristic of the human being. There are many characteristics, but another one that I want to highlight is the fact that we are created to submit. We have a submissive nature. That's the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us. And the Quran helps us to remember our Lord and submit to Him in the best manner. But what happens, so first of all, to stick with the submission. So how do we know that we were created to submit? Because Allah tells us. And in all the revelations, it indicates that we are created to submit. If you look at the origins of the human being, Allah created us from dirt, according to the Bible narrative. In the Quran, He says that we created us from mud and clay. We have lowly, humble origins. And in the New Testament, humankind is described as sheep that are lost. And if you think about a sheep, the nature of a sheep, they're very docile, very submissive. And then the prophets are compared to what? Shepherds, guiding the sheep. So this is an indication that we, in fact, are created with a submissive. Alhamdulillah. So what happens when we forget? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we still have that nature of submission, we then submit to what is not worthy of being submitted to. We submit to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the example of this is in the Quran. When Bani Israel began worshiping the golden calf. Musa alayhi salam departed from them and Harun was with them. And when Musa alayhi salam left and came back, he found them worshiping the golden calf. And why? Because they forgot their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That they should worship him and him alone. And this is not just unique to Bani Israel, it is Bani Adam. We all made a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Barzakh, in the pre-eternal realm, and he asked us, who is your Lord? And we testified that he was our Lord. And that was before we were even here. But when we get here, and we forget. We forgot our covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, that is the importance of Eid and Ramadan. One of the meanings of Eid is to return. What are we returning to? We're returning to the fitrah of Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us. And the fitrah of the human being is to submit. The fitrah as a human being is to submit. Submit to who? Submit to Allah. So Ramadan, a month of fasting, is designed for us to purify our nafs, and is designed to help us cultivate remembrance, to cultivate taqwa, to become people of taqwa. Because the people of taqwa remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the morning and at night when they're laying down and when they are standing up. They remember Allah. May Allah forgive us, and may Allah make us among the people of taqwa. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. So, a few weeks ago, I listened to a podcast about by this man named Jonathan Haidt. He's a psychologist, and he studies moral psychology. He's a secular Jewish leftist by his own admission, but his research is so important, and I'm going to tell you why it's important for us. He talks about how human beings, the research he's done, he's found that human beings are hardwired for religion. We are hardwired for morality. It is part of our evolutionary, it's an evolutionary feature for us to be moral human beings and to be hardwired for religion. It's part of how we are able to organize ourselves in sophisticated ways that other species are not able to. Because we have empathy and we have compassion and we have a sense of morality, right? And we have a sense of religion, and that enables us to develop cumulative knowledge and all these other things. So in his research, he developed with other researchers something called the moral foundations theory, and he talks about that there are 5 what he calls channels. We can call them pillars. These 5 moral virtues that transcend all cultures around the world, and the 5 he says are harm, care, fairness, in-group loyalty, authority, and purity and sanctity. And there is a test that you can take to see sort of where you fall, on these different moral virtues. And he uses this research also to talk about differences between liberal and conservatives in terms of how they view the world and how they engage in the world. And so I took the test and found that I was liberal on most of them, except one where I was closer to the conservatives, and that was purity and sanctity, which makes sense because in our religion, I'm Muslim, and in our religion we value purity, we value purification. And it's an important part of our religion, in fact, the idea of purification both externally and internally. When there's najas, right, when there's ritual impurity, what do? We make wudu. We have a way to purify our external. So we take water and we cleanse our hands, we cleanse our mouth, we cleanse our head, we cleanse our feet, right? And so that we are ritually, so that is tahara, right? Ritual purity. But we also have we value the purification of the heart. right? And we actually have a religious science that's dedicated to that tasawwuf, which is all about purifying the inward. And the beautiful thing about our religion is that we recognize the zahir and the batin, the inward and the outward, and they are sort of mirror reflections in many ways of one another. So we make wudu and we use water. Well, what does water symbolize when we're talking about spiritual inward purification? It's the revelation of Allah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that helps to purify us. Right? Purify us how? So that the words we speak are purified. The thoughts that we have, the things that we do with our hands, the path that we walk is a purified path. Alhamdulillah. That is our religion. So people are of four types then. One is those who want to purify the world of corruption and impurity, but they neglect to purify their own souls. Two, those who attempt self-purification, but they neglect the work of purifying the external, the outward world of injustice and oppression, the things that are abominable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Three are those who are neglectful of both the inner and outer work of purification. These are the people of heedlessness. May Allah save us from being among the people of heedlessness. Qul Ameen. And then four are those who are the people of taqwa, right? The people who engage in both the inward and the outward purification. May Allah make us from among those people. Qul Ameen. So I want to close with talking about us as a community, a collective. So kind of bringing together this idea of purification of the self, of the world, being in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having taqwa, and pull it together and talk about us as an ummah, specifically in the Bay Area. So, alhamdulillah, we as a community strive to do the work of inward and external purification, and that's a part of our path. And we thank Allah for making us among people like that, and this is a part of our religion, and we strive to do that. There was a 2013 study by the San Francisco Foundation and the Silicon Valley Community Foundation called the One Nation Bay Area Report, and it was a research study done on the Muslims in the Bay Area. And one of the project leads was Dr. Hatem, who is the co-founder of Zaytuna College. He helped to pull this report together. And I just wanted to briefly read a couple of findings I think are really relevant for us to consider today, given the climate of our nation and where we are as a community. So one of the findings said the survey suggested that Muslims who attend the mosque once a week were most likely to have volunteered civically or politically in the past year, which is 48%. So those who come to the mosque at least once a week, they're more likely to engage, right, in that work of not just internal purification, but doing the work of justice and purifying the world of corruption around us. Number two, there was little effort to coordinate philanthropic giving. Thus, all indications are that Muslims contribute to worthy causes, but like many, have not yet mastered the art of strategic philanthropy. Number three, third finding I want to share. African American Muslims are one of the area's most civically engaged communities, and many of their leaders and members are involved in projects designed to improve the area's quality of life. And then four, lastly, many Muslims face a double minority status due to their racial, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. Members of the community are living within very narrowly constructed immigrant and community enclaves. Many participants describe facing exclusion from the social, religious, and political space, and that they were not actively sought out, even though they had experienced some inclusion in ceremonial events or were consulted about foreign policy considerations. We recommend further research to explore and understand the specific needs and challenges of those who face other multiple minority identities such as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, LGBT Muslims, Muslims with disabilities, etc. Now, there are some key insights I think I want to share about each of these findings in the report. And number one is I think we as a community need to address the social, economic, and cultural barriers toward Muslims coming to the masjid. I mean, this is kind of like a sacred cow we don't talk about. We need to talk about it. We need to focus on what we need to do to increase attendance, not just because we don't want to make the house of Allah a place where people don't want to come, or certain people don't come, right? We don't want to displease our Lord. That's obviously the most important reason. But another reason is because the data suggests that there is a correlation to people coming to the masjid and being involved in addressing the issues that affect all of us on a daily basis. Number two, though we are charitable with our time and resources through many domestic and international causes ranging from the Syrian refugee crisis to food and housing insecurity in Oakland, though we contribute to those, we are not strategic in terms of how our charity and actions coordinate to maximize the impact so that we're reaching the most marginalized both in the Muslim community and outside of the Muslim community. Number three, the non-black immigrant Muslim community has a lot to learn from African American Muslims. African American Muslims are pioneers in the Bay Area, and there's a lot for others to learn from us, especially about being civically and politically engaged in the public sphere, putting our faith into action in the public sphere, so that the laws and things that are passed reflect our values and beliefs as Muslims. And then lastly, we need to focus on making the masjid a welcoming and safe place for the most marginalized in society, because if they're not coming to Allah's house for a community, to get sacred knowledge, to grow in wisdom, they're going to go somewhere. They're going to seek it out somewhere. And we want to make the masjid the place where they come. Okay? So, on that note, there are two major issues that I cannot neglect to mention that are really pressing, I think, for us to really think about our response as a community of Taco right now in this moment. The first is violence against women and girls, which is endemic in our society. And we need the masjid, the masajid, to be a place where we develop solutions to the issue of oppression of Muslim women and non-Muslim women. There's a lot of re-education that needs to happen of our boys and men. And I think that, our tradition has the answer. Our religion has the answer. We need to return to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially when it comes to what a healthy masculine identity looks like. Like, what does that look like? It doesn't look like being violent, being abusive with our language and our words. It doesn't mean being emotionally stoic, right? The Prophet, peace be upon him, we like to emphasize how he was a military general and a leader, and he was hard with the disbelievers, but he was also soft and gentle, especially with women and children. When he came down from the cave, frightened and distraught, he went to his wife and cried in her lap as she consoled him. How many of us go to our wives when we are distressed and demonstrate that kind of vulnerability? That is the kind of masculinity that we need to practice as Muslim men. And I believe that if we do that, then we go a long way toward addressing the oppression and violence against women, Muslim women, and non-Muslim women. And then secondly, is the issue that it's really painful. It's been really painful for me the last week, especially reading all the news reports about the so-called shelters that the government is setting up for undocumented young people. It's horrific. They're what they are glorified concentration camps. They're glorified detention centers where young, undocumented people are being warehoused, basically in cages. And they're overcrowded, and the government is talking about building additional emergency shelters for these undocumented people who are separated from their families and are not allowed to reunite with their families. This is a human rights violation, and it should singe the conscience of every believer, every believing man and woman. And so what is our response as a masjid? What is our response as a ummah? What is our response as people of Taqwa? When we have a God consciousness and we see or hear things like that, what are we going to do as a community? What if our masajid became sanctuary masajids like the Catholic churches are doing? Places of refuge for undocumented immigrants who are being hunted by ICE. You say, you're welcome here. We will protect you. We will support you. Because some of those folks are Muslim. we shouldn't care just because they're Muslim. We should care because they're human beings and it's human suffering, and we strive to be people of taqwa. But some of them are Muslims. We have Latino Muslims in our community who are part of mixed status families. That means that they may be a citizen, but they have family members who are undocumented, and some of them are Muslim and some of them are not. So this is an issue that is urgent that we need to focus on as a community, and that we need to address. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the people of taqwa. May He give us the courage and the integrity to stand for justice, and may He give us the will to engage in the work of purifying our souls and purifying the world around us. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا تقبل منا يا عليم. Allah, bless our families, bless us in this blessed time of Ramadan. Open our hearts to one another, help us to build community, and grant our elders a long life, and give them honor in this world and in the next. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our hearts with iman and love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and for this deen. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.
You loaded up on it, you wouldn't regroup it. Praise you, I enjoyed it, brother. Thank you, brother. Glad to see you. Yeah, we need young brother up here. Young lady.
Did somebody, Assalamu alaikum, did anybody drop a phone? Somebody is missing a phone, an LG.
How you been, brother? Doing well.